Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
there
you are
we
the
are.
host. René is the host now again.
Oh, oh, look at that here. Yeah. Okay, my dear friends. We are live right now, and we are going to talk about a pre-formatted story today. And this is a little bit different than what we normally do, because normally we have a Q&A, but there were a few questions about this thing, and it came back all the time. So I decided to try to see if I can do that like that. I was planning to also do this on YouTube. It's supposed to go on there, but I'm not sure where it is live right now. I think it is live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. Should be anyway, but we'll figure it out later. Okay, so the questions that I get asked many times is about well, you always give us so many exercises in your program, and if it is up to you, we need more than 24 hours a day to make sure that we can complete all the exercise things. So how do we do that? Because we have work, we have relationships and stuff like this. So how does it work? And that is actually a really complicated question. Um, and it is the reason why Taoists nor Buddhists are neither Buddhists nor Taoists in China and Asia in general are very popular as life partners because they spend so much time on their self-cultivation practices. The self-cultivation practice in itself, they are not so much of an issue. In fact, the practices they are not very complicated or anything like that. They just take a lot of time, and I think this is the main issue that people have because at the moment when you are uh, oh, one moment, I have not even logged in here on okay, I have to okay, I'll check that later. Facebook will do that by itself, I guess, and then in the meantime I cannot follow the Facebook questions. So if you have questions, I can only follow you here at this moment on my YouTube channel. So we have to go to my YouTube to follow it. I don't know, guys, can you see it on Facebook? You see us on Facebook the stream, or you see it on YouTube, Martina?
I have to check.
Your microphone is off, Martina. Yeah, microphone is still off. Okay, no problem. We just in the meantime go through the story, and we'll figure it out later on if everything went all right or not. At the moment when you are doing self-cultivation, you spend a lot of time, like I said, and uh, the people in your environment, they can be annoyed about that. The thing is that at the moment when you are starting doing self-cultivation, you're starting to work on self-improvement. And it is like when you're stopping smoking. I don't know if you ever tried that, but or when you try to stop taking drugs. Everybody knows smoking and drugs is not good for you. Once they get addicted, before that time, it's just very exciting. And once they get into it, they realize like that was maybe not a very good move. And but the habit or the social circle that you are part of is not easy to quit. And at the moment when you get into that situation, um, or you might get dragged into it, back into it all the time, or there's all kind of other reasons why for you it's very difficult to stop. Maybe you feel like you are weak or you need it to escape and all kind of things. That is possible. But at the moment, once you start stopping, you start noticing that your uh, social environment that you have created to be able to permit yourself the permission to keep doing things that are unhealthy for you, um, they start dragging on you and they try to drag you back to your old behavior because I said everybody knows that it is bad behavior, and they feel guilty when you move away from it, and they feel even more weak when you succeed in getting out of it and they didn't. Right. So in the beginning, then they maybe still talk about you, but at a certain point you are forgotten, and you are noticing in your daily life that you are not anymore part of their scene, although you have maybe in your heart you have warm feelings for them, but gradually you become less and less important. If you have come across this kind of situations, then you know what I'm talking about. And you feel really like a little bit betrayed because the feelings that all of a sudden that you share, apparently, they only become real once you stop taking the addiction, doing the addiction. And for the people who are in the addiction, whatever they are addicted to is stronger than the feelings that they have for you. It's the same like with emotional addictions. When people have all kind of strong emotions, it's very difficult to let go of these emotions. For the simple same reason, there's some benefit from that, and everything that doesn't fit the story uh, is missable, so to say. Uh, But at the moment when you do self-cultivation is also in itself an addiction. You have to understand that it's an addiction because you start noticing that you start feeling good, you start feeling more rational, you start making better choices, you start looking better. Some things you can never restore that you have destroyed. So don't worry, you're never going to look perfect anymore like you were a baby. But you're going to look better compared to what you did before. You're going to feel better and so on and so on. These kind of things all are very important. But let me check. Somebody just tried to come in. Is everybody in or not? I see 5 participants, but I don't see them. Okay. You don't have your screen on. That's nice. Nice, not per se. Um, anyway, so you are uh, going through all the self-cultivation experiences, and you create habits. That's basically it. And a habit is like an addiction, basically. Um, so that's why I say, okay, self-cultivation itself also is a habit. The thing is, you develop a particular kind of routine and a ritual, basically, to getting yourself through the whole day and through the whole month and the whole year and so on to achieve particular kind of goals. You have to have clear focus on your goals to get to that point. The thing is that at the moment when you have a relationship, they also have goals and they will take a part of the time that you would like to use for your self-cultivation. Because you realize if you come underneath a particular level of practice, then it is nice to do practice, but it might not give you the kind of reward that you're hoping for. Um, in my own experience, when I was in my learning period, my teacher one of my teachers said, like, look, you only practice like 10, 12 hours a day. That's too little. You have to practice more. When I went to Udang Mountains and I went to study in the monastery there, also the same. The days were very strictly regimented. You had little time for anything else. You wake up at 5:30. You start practicing. Before 7, you have to finish, and then you have breakfast. And then after breakfast, you go practice, and then you have lunch, and then you have a small break because the day is too hot, certainly in the summer and the winter. Maybe you will need to wash your clothes or something like this. Then you have practice, and then you uh, go eat, and then you have practice until then you go to bed. If you are part of a community which have also been where you also do rituals and stuff like this, then you wake up, you do your training, your rituals, and then you have your breakfast. It's just added body added weight to your day. And the reason for that is because for self-cultivation, you want to submerge yourself in the process of the self-cultivation. Um, Self-cultivation, like any behavior, becomes stronger if you spend more time on the practice, and it gets more powerful. It gets more influence on you when you spend more time on it. Or when you play football like once a day, you will be better in it than when you play it once a week. If you play tennis every day, it will be better than when you play it once a month. So these are simple common sense considerations that you have to take into account. At the moment when you do self-cultivation, um, you start noticing that the whole day through things are happening. You are 24 hours per day, you are a human being, right? So that means that you have actually 24 hours per day that you have to be busy with this self-cultivation. That's the whole point. The whole point of, like for instance, what it says in the Hongine Jing when it talks about health, your health can only be maintained if you are continuously vigilant on your relationship with nature. Otherwise, when you get distracted by your desires or anything like that, you start noticing you miss things. And as a result, that the jing of the body is being disrupted. That means that the coherence of your body is being disrupted. Your personality is being disrupted, and you start having all kind of desires and angers and disappointments and all kind of other feelings. And while going through all these different kind of feelings, you become more and more frustrated about all kind of stuff. Your body is getting behind in its self-cultivation process. You get sick and you die. I'm sorry, it's already a long working day for me. So that is a very important aspect, I think, that you have to take into consideration about the self-cultivation process. When you have like a regular life and your partner is self-cultivating, you have to see it from that side, right? They have their life, maybe they have a job, and then they come home and they want to spend time with you, or maybe they don't have a job, they just want to spend time with you. Doesn't really matter that much. At the moment when they do that, they will want to do things together, but you are not available maybe to them. So then at that moment they feel frustrated and they feel betrayed because the point of coming home is to be with your partner. And that means that if you have a job and you do self-cultivation and you have a relationship, these are three different kind of relationships that you have to spend your day on. So that means that somewhere you have to give in. Do you need sleep? When you self-cultivate enough, you need less sleep. So that is easy. And on the other hand, there's also the partner cultivation. Your relationship itself is a form of cultivation. Your work is a form of cultivation. Everything you do in a way is a form of cultivation. If you go to bar every day, drink beer, that's a form of cultivation, right? When you are continuously screaming at your neighbors because of you're having problems with them, or maybe you're just frustrated, that is also cultivation. If you do it once, that is okay, but if you do it twice, it already becomes traditional and it becomes already a habit. Very quickly, the release that you give to yourself, the release of you give to all kind of happy hormones and anger hormones, adrenaline and stuff like this. Um, these are related, by the way. Um, they give you a sort of satisfaction, so you cultivate that kind of behavior too. Anger doesn't come from nowhere. It's something that's gradually grown. Your desires also they're gradually grown. You're not suddenly falling in love. You are having a crush on somebody, and you cultivate your love for that person. It's all the same, and you can also cultivate it away out of your life. So that is one of the things that you learn as a self-cultivator is that a lot of things they are just a matter of being cultivated. Your relationship also is part of your cultivation in that sense. And that is something that many cultivators forget because they are so much self-centered in that kind of thing. In Taoism, they say it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you cultivate it, it can become a route towards enlightenment and immortality. So it doesn't really matter if you do, say, uh, heavenly circulations, or you do paging of the seven stars, or you do communion with the three pure ones, or you do well anything, uh, lower yourself in the hell realms and liberate uh, souls, all these kind of things, exorcisms and so on. Doesn't really matter. You can do all these kind of things, you can cultivate them, but that doesn't necessarily lead you to any form of improvement in your life or enlightenment. While on the other hand, taking good care of your personal relationships, they can, um, in a similar kind of fashion as any other kind of thing, can lead to your liberation of your sense of suffering if you have that. The whole point of self-cultivation is coming to a point where you feel free of suffering. And of course, yes, you need to manage your body and you need to manage your mind and your feelings and so on, but you also need to manage your relationships with other people. Brings me to another question that people very often have, and that is that um, people very often also want to cultivate their sexuality. They do tantra and all kinds of stuff, and they are not really aware of the fact that when by doing these kind of things, they undo their whole sexual cycle, because the whole point of sexual alchemy is to undo all your sense of sexuality so that you become more internalized, so that you can go further with your alchemical process. The kind of alchemy to enhance your sexuality that is part of the porn business, and that is something completely different. You don't get more spiritual when you get more excited. This is something that people very often they think that is actually the whole point of the practices. But in effect, in almost all self-cultivation practices, uh, within the Taoist realm anyway, the point is that even if you get an exalted stage, you have to eventually come to a calm stage where you can elevate yourself towards the realm where you your cultivation actually takes form and takes place. Um, at the moment when you go into sexual cultivation, you become successful in it. Your vagina goes back to its pre-menstrual period, and it becomes again eventually, how do you say, virgin-like. And for men, their testicles and their penis will retreat inside their body. So there's a question if you want to go do that kind of self-cultivation. People often don't realize that this is the case. The other kind of rituals and self-cultivation where it goes in the opposite direction, these are not meant for your personal development. They are meant for your personal satisfaction. That is something completely different. Um, so um, that is very often very disappointing. The techniques are very interesting, though. I've done all these things, and it takes time to undo it again if you want to undo it again. But it's actually very interesting, and it is, yeah, it's a cool thing to have done. That's basically it. But you need proper training. If you don't have proper training, you won't achieve anything. And the first thing that you need, of course, is to take control over particular functions like controlling the dantian and so on. It's not enough to just every now and then meditate for that. You really need to have rigorous training. You need to set time aside for that. That is usually the time that you would spend with your partner because most of the important meditations to start with are in the night. So they are when everybody goes to sleep because that's the time when you tune in on the day. That is also why in regular classes I always say it doesn't really matter what time you meditate. Meditation in itself is already a good thing. Um, but at the moment when you really self-cultivate, then that is part of your self-cultivation to be is that is to be precise on your timing, and not every meditation can be done every time for the best results. Some meditations have to be done on very precise times. And you need particular kind of initiation. So you need a proper teacher who can give you these kind of initiations to get past a certain kind of point. When you are meditating all by yourself, or you're practicing by yourself, or like Tai Chi Chuan saying, sounds uh, weird actually to say. You need somebody to be able to initiate particular kind of processes inside you, like putting a sort of seed inside you through which you eventually can find your way to realize that kind of experience. And it might sound silly, but I must say that from all the times that I had these kind of initiations by teachers, this really every time changed the course of practice. Whether it's a Buddhist teacher or a Taoist teacher or anything like that, that is of course very different. But most teachers don't have that. So what you then get is mechanical results. And mechanical results, even though they can be devastating when you try to kill somebody with your martial arts, it is not the same as self-cultivation in that sense. It is martial cultivation. That is not the same. Martial cultivation is learning to be a good warrior, to be a brave soldier, to go to the battlefield and get yourself killed for the sake of somebody else, a king or something, which is not my favorite kind of person. Yes. Um, you see that a lot of countries they eventually take into the political account that they have to attack other countries and they have to kill other people for that purpose. They don't take into consideration that also their own people get killed. They don't have any real heart for their own people if they even start a war, let alone that they have a heart, of course, for their neighbor countries. Um, Even in the self-defense of your country is the same. Uh, to go in a counter-attack when you get attacked, it also goes at the expense of many lives. And it might be fair or whatever, but it is in the end all nationalism. And that is counterproductive towards your self-cultivation because these are heavy feelings. They are serious feelings. They're intense feelings. And that is one of the things that you will come across in your self-cultivation. That once you get the results of your self-cultivation, your feelings become less intense. They become more internalized. They are intense to you, but they're not intense in your relationship to the environment. A nice example for this is there is in India, as you know, Indian government is pretty much right wing. Well, their leading political party has frequently emphasized their adoration for Adolf Hitler. So it's not really like greatest kind of political party. But one of the people who are there in the leadership is a very famous Hindu priest. You look at his lectures and stuff like this. He's a fascist. He's not a Buddhist, right? He is emphasizing continuously his intense feelings about all kind of things. So he's not a spiritual being. He just uses his spiritual dress as a way to convince other people for all kind of things. Like I am now wearing this Confucian scholar overcoat, and so that has to help you convince my authority. But my authority is in my words, not in what I dress, right? And you have to always stay reasonable about what somebody says. This is a very important part. And self-cultivation, you learn to become reasonable about your own things, what is valuable, what is not valuable. Um, you might ramble for hours sometimes when you are talking, but you talk into spirals and you can back to all kind of things, back and back and back and back again, to make sure that people eventually get the message. Self-cultivation is a time-consuming thing. That's the thing. And at the moment when you combine self-cultivation with the relationship, you have to make sure that you plan your time very carefully, right? And at the moment when you plan your time very carefully, you can combine work, relationship, and so on and so forth. Because once you have reached a particular stage of your self-cultivation, you can do it in anything, right? The heavenly circulation you can practice all day through, whether you are working in McDonald's or you're sitting on a meditation chair, it doesn't really matter. Yes. Um, Sexual alchemy you can practice anytime, um, because the substances that are running around through your body, a lot of them are sensual and sexual. And at the moment when you touch anything, this is means for sexual cultivation, erotic cultivation. So there is no limit in what you can use for your cultivation. When you want to cultivate drinking a lot of beer, that is limited because you have to go sit for a place where you can, you know, drink a lot of beer, preferably privately, because then nobody can disturb you in the process of drinking your beer, right? But self-cultivation for spiritual purposes and so on, this is just a matter of taking time and taking periods where you have to learn something new and then try to apply this to your daily life. So relationships, self-cultivation is not a problem. Just have to make sure you get good agreements with your partner, to make sure that you spend enough time on learning new things and then integrating it within the context of your relationship. And then you have partner integration in your self cultivation. That's a very important part. And that will reflect also in your sexuality. Your sexuality you can use to cultivate yourself. Most relationships, after a longer time, also they become less physically active partnerships, and as a result of that, you can just take that extra time for your self cultivation. You don't have to sit up straight for your self cultivation. You can lie down. When you can lie down on your side in bed while your partner is sleeping, you can cultivate, no problem. Once they are sleeping, you can sit up straight in the bed and go meditate. You can do that. Another problem. You can get out of bed, play your Tai Chi Chuan or your yoga or whatever you do for your cultivation. This is all possible. If you don't need to sleep, don't sleep. If you don't need to eat, don't eat. Right? That is the self-cultivation process. You eventually feel like need to eat less, need to breathe less, need to sleep less, you need to exercise more. That's basically the way. Yes, I think that answers the question that was there. It's a very extensive question, so I thought, okay, let's spend a lot of time on it. I've now spent about 25 minutes altogether on this story, and I hope it was very satisfying to you. Does anybody here have any additional questions in the Zoom? Okay. Nobody has any additional questions. We're still thinking about the questions. I went very fast, right, telling about the subject. The person who had the question, he couldn't be here today, so I hope actually the stream also records everything, so that I can show it later. Otherwise, he has very bad luck. Tasting it. I cannot open my Facebook page right now, so I don't know if I can uh, see any questions from anybody else. So this is a little bit of a pity. But you can go to my YouTube channel if you want. Just YouTube at Rene Goris, no, YouTube/Rene Goris, and or yeah, and then you can ask the question there in the comments. I will probably get to see it here. All right. Well, I hope you had a very nice time, and I will say goodbye to the stream at this moment, because I have no more questions that I had to answer. The Zoom group, they are just saying like we are baffled from all the story, the material. That's a lot to digest, and all of a sudden, uh, they are, of course, my main inspiration to this question because they get to do it many times. Like, oh yeah, you have more exercise. How are we going to do that? You already have like 60 hours of exercise every day, and now you got another thing that you have to do 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So how is that possible? And that is actually one of the interesting things. Taoism works always through an overload of exercises. Um, because in the overload you have to make choices. The choices are based on your sensitivity and on the development that you make in your body. We had a talk about it in the previous class. In Taoism, you develop a su condition. You have to be weak. You have to be uh, weak for the simple purpose that you have to develop the kind of sensitivity through which you can learn to manipulate different functions of your body, your mind, and your behavior. If you are too strong, if you're too healthy, like what people do in the gym, you get what in Chinese medicine is called a sure condition. And as a result of that, you actually start exposing signs of opulence. And opulence is not very sensitive. So that means that you miss basically all the physical signs of your decay, and you might feel like you're very healthy, but actually you're becoming less and less healthy. This is why people who have an opulent health very often fall victim for things like brain hemorrhage, heart attacks, um, accidents, and so on. So if you have other questions, you can always add it later to my posts, and I will see them and I will answer them. Or maybe I answer them in the next session. Next week we're going to have another session, and let's get ready for that. And then we go have more talks. And I hope that you have questions. You can post them to me already beforehand in case I don't get to see things like this. Take good care of yourself. And I look forward to see you next time again. If you feel like sponsoring these programs, that's by the way also possible. Go to my Patreon, Daoland Healthcare, and you can also follow classes, of course. Just contact me. I will tell you how to do it. Yep, and broadcast.